So, Fáilte go Gaelic Leor Instagram TV. I'm going to have a wee chat to you about dathan, colours, dathan. And colours in Gaelic. Now, I'm guilty of this myself, actually. If you go back through the feed, you'll find a little video that teaches colours in the old traditional way, what I would call the paint pot way of that they do in primary schools, where Gorm, blue, Uaine, green, Buya, yellow, Jirak, red, so on and so forth. And that's really useful, teaching people colours. Colours are of course adjectives, so you can talk about things like Marak Rú, a black pudding, Marak, feminine noun, Marak Rú, the lenition there, whereas a Tuitú, a black house, an old croft house, masculine, so no lenition. And very, very useful way to do it. However, as people encounter more language and more Gaelic, they'll begin to see there's a lot of subtlety in about how colour is used in Gaelic, and we're going to look at that in this video. And one thing I found very useful, and I helped develop a resource with Storlan Nasht in the Gaelic a few years ago, where there was like a double spectrum in Gaelic. Okay, we kind of think in English quite almost like a rainbow, whereas in Gaelic think of it almost as two little interconnecting spirals, and we'll come to them. And there's a kind of a yellow-red family, Buya Jirak family of colours, and there's an Uaine-Gorm, a blue-green family of colours, and they probably meet slightly somewhere in the middle with Purpi, purple. Purpi, as a Prince fan, I'm going to throw that one in there. You'll also hear Purper as well, but that's in there, Purper. So I'm going to go forward. So looking at the green-blue set of colours, the first one in Gaelic is Uaine, green, Uaine. And Uaine is a very Scottish Gaelic specific word. You'll hear about Nabiantan Uaine, Unchelin Uaine, the green mountains, the green island. And Uaine tends to nowadays be used for that green colour we see in nature. But there's first of all, there's the famous Gaelic song Salnan Ilya, Salnan Ilya, Ilya, Salnan Ilya, look me. And there's a line in that, Salnan Ilya Gorm in blue islet of the Glas. And traditionally, Gorm, the Gaelic for blue, when that just a bold blue, was used to talk about the grass. And that's because in many cases, and Cairn Gorm, the blue mountain, that these ideas of a colour being specific wasn't so tight in the old days. And I'll discuss a little bit more as we go forward. So Gorm is there. You hear about, like we said, Cairn Gorm, Tor Gorm, you'll see that in a lot of place names. Toloch Gorm, and Gorm's, is a fairly popular colour. But there's two more parts to that. There's Glas. Now, Glas is translated as grey in modern Gaelic, but if we go to Irish, that's used for the same equivalent as Uaine, green, Glas, in Irish, and that's to be seen in words like Glant and Glas Gwador, a famous song from Tyrconnell, from Donegal, Glant and Glas Gwador, the green valleys of Gwador, and that's still in Gaelic as well, Glas in many places. You would have a glasrich, vegetable. So if you think about people saying in English, eat your greens, that's really what people are saying, eat the glasrich, eat your greens. So Glas still can mean green in some situations. And then Glas has a little cousin which sits in between Liath and sits in between Gorm, getting ahead of myself. Gorm sits between Gorm and Glas, and it's called Liath. Now Liath, if we're talking about colours, direct colours, is light blue. It's probably what you would talk about as azure in Italian, I think, where you have a light blue. Okay, and in a lot of languages, light blue and blue, as we see it in English, are considered to be separate colours. And Liath would tend to be the colour of the sky, or it can also, however, drift towards being a light blue, can drift towards being a grey, and we talk about a monolea, the Monolea Mountains, the pretty much the grey mountains, or the light blue, the blue grey mountains of the Highlands of Scotland. And that Leah takes on Glas when we start talking about hair colour. So if somebody is grey-haired, ha falt Leah ora. So you have that as another little complexity to think about. Within that as well, of course, there are other colours that are kind of related to that, but they're kind of made up. I've seen Turk-Ghurum used for turquoise, so like a greeny blue. That's a fairly new word. And of course, there's Erigid, which is the Gaelic for silver. And Erigid isn't really a colour in Gaelic. People do use it now, but that's probably the effective one. But I've heard, for example, Erigid Glas, like grey silver. So that's to be thought about. And then, if you want to talk about dark blue, though, you would never talk about Gorm Sullier. You would talk, for light blue, you talk about Liath. But if you're talking about dark blue or navy blue, you talk about Du Ghurum, black blue, Du Ghurum. And that brings us to the word du. So du is black, which we discussed already. But its opposite colour, or opposite shade, sorry, is Gyal. Gyal, and Gyal is kind of the white of your cricket. But that would be Gyal, is just the colour of a wedding dress and that thing. But there's also two other words. There's the very archaic Fionn, which you'll see in Fionlug or Fionnagal, and that means fair. And we use for Finn MacCool, for example, the famous Gaelic warrior. And you'll see that existing as well still in place names quite a lot as well, and descriptive, old descriptive names. But there's also another word, ban, which I think would be used quite a lot, and that can mean just absence of colour. It's used when you're referring to somebody as meaning really their hair colour, ban. So blonde, hafalt ban air, hafalt ban ora, and that's another thing that you do. And ban will become useful as we look at the next thing when we move into the Buya Jerak spectrum. So you have, now I take this on things I read online, on reasonably reputable websites, is that the colour red was the first colour that we defined as humans because it's the colour of blood, full. So Jerak is red, Jerak, okay? And that's the colour of your engine smally is your Jerak. Anything that's just a bright red is Jerak. But there is, of course, if you've ever heard of Rob Ruag, there's the colour Ruag, which means a ruddy red, and that's more of a natural russet brown, and you use it for hair colour, hafalt Ruag air, and that then feeds into, so you can't have, say for example, falt Jerak would be somebody who had dyed their hair a bright red. If they're red haired, hafalt Ruag ora. And that then brings me to the colour of the cap and the Gensi I'm wearing. This isn't down, or it's me anyway, I'm colourblind, I have to point out. Down is brown, but maroon is ruig down, a reddy brown, ruig down. And you'll already see that Gaelic does put colours together. So that's ruig down. And then there's another colour on top of that, which is kind of like a sallowy, like a kind of washed out brown, which we would call Oer, the famous Gaelic prophet, Cynioch Oer, the brands here, Sallow Kenneth, Cynioch Oer. And that would be used to talk about like a light brown cow or dog or something like that. And that's the next one. So then we move within that spectrum. As you go down, you're kind of starting to get towards your oranges and your yellows. And a very specific Gaelic word is buya, yellow. It's very buya, yellow, buya. And buya is the colour of good fortune and luck in Gaelic, not of fear. That's white in Gaelic, gal. But you have buya. However, another colour that's been around a long time in human history is or. Gold, or. So if someone was very, very yellow, it's orvuya, orvuya. And or had an effect on people when the colour orange came into existence. It became in this orange, but today you'll see orange. and orange. But oriste was a thing that was there as a colour for a long time, and that was it. Now there are other colours that do exist. There's of course the very famous pink, which is just obviously taken from the English, but I do like this in the Irish, and you'll hear this in Gaelic as well. Ban Yerak, like a light red. Ban Yerak, I like that as a colour. And then even redder than red is Corker, which I think I got from Julie Fowlis. Thank Julie. It means scarlet. So that's it there. And of course, if you mix your Jarrack and your Corker with Gorm, you'll get Purpi, and that brings us back to the end. So I hope that makes sense. I hope this isn't too long for Instagram TV, but anyway, I hope that helps a little bit with the subtlety of colours in Gaelic. Tap alive, Scíos an Éisiú.